to order on May 4, 2010 at 9 a.m. Are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes, we are.
Then we'll move to the first line item of business, which is bill number 2010-16, which requires certain contractors and employers and employees hired to staff gaming hospitality operations to be signatory to collective bargaining agreement where the city or the city's redevelopment agency has a specified financial or proprietary interest, proposed by Bradford R. Jebbert. Staff?
I asked to speak on the first second recommending committee because I was out of town at the second committee conference, the last recommending committee, and I wanted to have an opportunity to make some a record on this to create a little legislative history. As you're aware, the council was in litigation last year with the Common Workers Union regarding an initiative or referendum petition where the city ultimately prevailed. I think the hard feelings persisted for some time, but at the end of last year, the manager negotiated an agreement with the culinary union that required a number of things in exchange for them no longer pursuing an initiative or referendum petition against the city of Las Vegas. One of the things on that list was this particular ordinance. That's why I'm sponsoring it, because it was required pursuant to that agreement that was approved by council. I think the date that it has to be approved by is June 1st, if not it's June 30th, but either way it's within the next couple of months. That either needs to be approved or under that resolution we do not have an agreement with the culinary union. They can pursue it if they want against the The reason I wanted it on today wasn't to pitch this one way or the other, just let you know I'm moving through the process pursuant to the agreement that was entered into and approved by the city council. There has been some question regarding what this does and what it doesn't do, and that's what I wanted a few moments to put on the record today. The agreement has been reviewed by the Culinary Workers Union Council, Richard McCracken. He made a couple of minor modifications that we had no problem with, and it's that version that appears before you today. What this will require is that in the future, if there are monies or land or any contribution made to a redevelopment project that involves non-restricted gaming hospitality, so we're talking about a hotel, casino, or live gaming, and the agency or city has a proprietary interest in the financial outcome of that project, then the developers of that project are going to have to use the local union that represents hospitality workers, which of course is the culinary union, in that project. What does that mean? Does that mean that every single project that is engaged in by the agency or the city in the future that involves gaming hospitality is going to involve mandatory use of culinary labor? The answer is no. For example, if mere tax increment were a part of the deal, so we decided that, you decided as a council, you're going to participate in the construction of a gaming hospitality project, so we're talking about a hotel casino, and in this particular case, you're going to contribute a percentage of the tax increment back to the project over time to help defer the cost of construction or something. That alone will not trigger, this particular ordinance will not trigger the use of culinary labor. If you were to give land or money to a project with no expectation of payback, that will not trigger this ordinance. It will only be triggered if you have some interest in the project. For example, you participate in the construction of a gaming hospitality project and you decide that you want to get paid back a percentage of the profits over time to get back the city's investment. That would trigger it. If you had a project where you decided that you were going to buy a portion of it, let's say the parking garage portion of it would be written down by the redevelopment money, and the parking proceeds would be used to pay back. If that parking garage is part of a gaming hospitality project, probably that would trigger it as well. But you would have to have that kind of proprietary interest for this ordinance to trigger mandatory use of the culinary labor union by the project developer. With that said, I'm willing to answer any questions. I know we got some interested parties in the room. If they have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Question for you. Are there any developments currently within the city of Las Vegas that we have a proprietary interest where this ordinance will be triggered?
No. As of now, as we speak, there are no projects that would be affected by this that were either initiated, well, let me back a moment. Any project that was initiated prior to this ordinance would not be affected by it. This is not retroactive. Even if it were, we have projects that were inked before this ordinance that meet the criteria. Any projects that come after this ordinance would be affected. There are none that are being negotiated now that I'm aware of that would be affected by it.
Are there any projects or developments in the future that you see where the city of Las Vegas may have been in conversations with developers that may trigger this ordinance?
The only ones that I am aware of are the Charlie Palmer Hotel project in the 61 acres. It does not involve gaming, would not be affected by this. The only other gaming hospitality project that we're currently involved in is CIM, that's the Lady Luck Towers next door. There is currently a development agreement. It's possible in the future that that may need modification. And if the developers of that project seek modification that would give us a proprietary interest in the project, then they would be affected by it. But they will know that going in before they seek renegotiation. They will know what the risks are if they ask for that kind of deal. The only other deals are deals that are so far downstream, I don't know how they would be affected. There's been some talk of developing this current site and the acreage next door as an arena gaming hotel project. Those discussions haven't even begun with the developer yet. But if they do begin and they do lead to somebody putting on the table the idea that we should get paid back a percentage of profit or proceeds from the project in exchange for some redevelopment contribution or city contribution, then it would be affected. But again, that's something that can be negotiated around, and right now we have no projects that meet that criteria.
How does this ordinance position the city in a good or bad posture?
It's really a policy question that you're answering, and I don't know the best way to answer it except this. The Culinary Union, for whatever reason, took a very, very strong interest in the City of Las Vegas Redevelopment Agency. Such a strong interest in the agency and its projects that last year they began, or actually the end of the year before, and the end of 2008, began circulating an initiative or referendum petition that would have essentially, if they had made the ballot and been voted on by the voters of the City of Las Vegas, would have ended the life of the redevelopment agency and would have made it impossible for the city to provide the type of financing that was being contemplated for the new City Hall project. And it would have required a vote of the people before any disbursement of lease monies could be made for the City Hall project, and would have ended the redevelopment agency. That's my memory of it. This ordinance, I think, was part of a negotiated package with the Culinary Union because they have achieved ordinances like this in other cities. San Francisco and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania are two cities that come to mind. They wanted an ordinance like this in the city of Las Vegas because, I don't want to speak for them because they're not here, but I think it's safe to say they would argue that they want organized labor on board if public money is going into a public project. And so they asked that this type of ordinance be part of a settlement package with the city of Las Vegas in exchange for them supporting redevelopment and no longer pursuing initiative or referendum petitions of the type they did a year and a half ago. That's the advantage to the ordinance.
Is there another entity that should be included in this?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
Well, with this ordinance as it stands today, prior to the council vote, if in fact we vote in favor, any activity that we do that has a fiduciary tie that the city of Las Vegas, according to your comments, your statement on the record, that Culinary would benefit as far as having some negotiations take place for them to be the only union to benefit. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah, to the extent that this does not require negotiation with the trade unions for the construction part of it, it doesn't require negotiations with any other union for any other part of the project. This is something they pursued, no other union pursued, and what they're trying to do is carve out an opportunity for culinary workers for this particular project. There's no competing union that I'm aware of with the Culinary. They're the only in town when it comes to representation of hospitality workers. And for the record, the ordinance doesn't use the term culinary. It uses the term the union that represents hospitality workers or words to that effect. So whoever that might be, that union is the collective bargaining agency that the developer would have to deal with. But to answer your question, it does, in effect, favor the culinary, but there's no competition with the culinary for representation of hospitality workers. It doesn't give any like advantage to any other union for any other part of the project.
Councilman?
Is there any, I'd like to hear some public comment, if there's any first.
Okay. Is there anyone here from the public that is willing to speak on this item? If so, please come forward, state your name for the record. Be glad to hear from you.
Good morning, Jennifer Lazovich, 8345 West Sunset Road. I think I know the answer, but I just want to confirm. What if there was a special improvement district such that there was a hotel casino inside of that was included in an overall bigger special improvement district? And again, there was no expectations that any of the proceeds from the hotel casino were to go directly back to the city. Would this ordinance apply?
Based on what you said at the very end of your comment, I don't believe it would. If there's no proprietary interest in the project, we don't have an interest in getting paid back from that project, there's no schedule or whatever, we're merely assessing an SID for the project. That ties to the property, not to the profits of the business. And I think that's what separates the two. I think that's why TIF financing doesn't trigger this. I think the theory here, and I don't want to get too long-winded an answer here, but I do think we need to make a legislative record here, depending on where this thing goes in the long run. I think the reason the courts uphold ordinances like this, or have in the past, is because they recognize that if there is a disruption to the business, and you're taking a percentage of the business profits as payback, then there's an interest in making sure there's no disruption. What the culinary gives in exchange for this kind of deal is a guarantee they don't strike during the life of the project. So what happens is you create a project that triggers this ordinance, we're getting paid back a percentage of the profits. The developer now has to deal with the culinary. The culinary makes a deal with them, and in exchange of culinary, it's mandatory under the ordinance, they can't have a labor disruption. So that means our source of repayment doesn't get disrupted as a result of labor disruption. The reason I think SIDs and tax increment financing don't fall under that and don't trigger this ordinance is because they're tied to property value, not to labor disruption. You can have as much labor disruption as you want, you still have to pay your property taxes, you still have to pay your SID. And that's why this ordinance only applies to proprietary interests of the type I've described. And again, the quid pro quo is that the culinary union has to, in exchange, agree not to cause a labor disruption.
Thank you.
Is that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Seeing no one else, public comment is closed. Councilman?
Good questions, Councilman Barlow. I appreciate you clearing up some of those. Brad, I understand the history behind this. I know what you're trying to do, and I wasn't here during the heated exchange, and I know it did get a little dicey there for a while. But the underlying philosophy here, if this is passed, is that the city of Las Vegas is dictating to a private company whether they should form a relationship with a union. And I just don't believe the city of Las Vegas should be doing that. And that's not our role and this is nothing about unions, this is nothing about the culinary, this is about an industry negotiating with unions whether they should develop a relationship or not. The city of Las Vegas, I just don't see why we should be in the middle of that, understanding what you've been through, understanding what you're trying to negotiate. There's no way I'm going to support something like this. I'll be voting no on this today, and I'll be voting no on it tomorrow. But I understand exactly what you're doing. I just don't think the city should be involved in it.
Okay.
With that, I'll make a motion. I guess
Again, don't pass. A recommendation that the council don't pass this ordinance tomorrow.
Okay, my motion is to recommend the council not pass this ordinance.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's it. It's unanimous.
Okay.
This will go to, for the record, this will go to the council tomorrow with that don't pass recommendation.
Yes, this will go before the council tomorrow with a don't pass recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Agenda item number 4, which is bill number 2010-17, which levies assessment for Special Improvement District number 1485, Alta Drive, Rancho Drive, to approximately 275 feet west of Lacey Lane. Landscape maintenance, fiscal year 2011, sponsored by the STEP requirement. Staff?
This is a annual routine SID maintenance ordinance levying assessments for this area. Like I say, it comes up every year, and it's a routine item. We have representatives from our Public Works SID division here. If you have any questions, recommend approval.
Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? If so, please come forward and state your name for the record. Seeing none, I have no comments in regards to it.
Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. We're now down to recommendation. I'm sorry, citizens' participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the committee. No subject matter may be acted upon by the committee unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If anyone is here willing to speak during the public comment portion, please come forward. Seeing none?
I just wanted to
Yes.
announce that last bill will be eligible for adoption on May 19th.
The last bill in respect to agenda item number 4?
Yes, the SID.
Okay, the SID. The clerk has made note of that.
Yes.
Okay. And we will entertain a motion at this time, Councilman.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
You doing good?